Whew. I don't know if any of you who were responsible for that meal are in the room, but if you are, thank you. But then also, I don't thank you. I usually try not to eat while I'm at events like this because it just makes me kind of worthless after I eat. But you know, Brandon brought me a plate and put it down in front of me, and it just looks so good I couldn't not eat it. So, okay, here we go. Refreshing physical health. Here's what 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19 through 20 says. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. Glorify God in your body. No doubt we have experienced prolonged stress over the course of about the last year and a half, just under the last year and a half, a little under 18 months. And that has some very real effects on the body. And some of these effects, as we walk through them, you're going to recognize some of these in your own life. You're going to say, that's me. Like that's absolutely me. Like I have fallen prey to that because of what the last year or so has been. So I want to walk through, and this won't take us long, but I want to walk through these 10 effects of prolonged stress upon the body, just so you'll know that a lot of what you're experiencing is not unique just to you. Number one, mental health problems. Mental health problems. There's no question. We mentioned this just briefly last night in our talk on emotional health. The reality is depression, anxiety, all of those things are on the rise post-COVID. There is a direct link between physical health and mental health. Direct link, correlational link between mental health and physical health. And so as physical health has gone down because of the stress that we put our bodies under, our minds have not responded well to that. So depression has risen, anxiety has risen, suicide has risen, all in the last 14, 15 months. Second, cardiovascular disease. There was a study that just came out in the last 45 days or so looking at the increase, and I don't remember what the percentage was, but the increase in diagnoses of cardiovascular disease just over the course of the last 12 months. It makes sense, right? I mean, cardiovascular disease, what's going on with your heart? We've been sitting more. We haven't been as active as we have been in years past. Makes sense that individuals who already had pre-existing conditions with their heart, that those would be exacerbated as a result of both the stress, the isolation, the lack of activity, the increase of disconnection, all of those. Number three, obesity and other eating disorders. Obesity and other eating disorders. We talk about when people go away from school, you get the freshman 15. Most people, whenever they go away to college, they gain 15 pounds. They call that the freshman 15. And what we have referred to in my profession of doing counseling is the pandemic 20. You know, that with the pandemic, most people have said, a lot of people have said, maybe not most, but a lot of people have said that they have gained upwards of 20 or more pounds during the pandemic. Again, isolation, lack of activity, staying at home. When I'm working in my office, I don't have access to food all day long. But if I'm sitting at home on my couch and doing Zoom meetings all day long, I got a whole pantry of food that I've got access to. And so people eat all throughout the day as opposed to the way they used to eat. And so as a result of that, we've seen excessive weight gain. We've seen individuals that have developed eating disorders as a result of that, compulsive overeating, anorexia, bulimia, all of those have been on the rise as well. So obesity and other eating disorders. Number four, skin and hair problems as a result of stress. Some of your hair's turned gray. Some of it's just turned loose. When we subject our bodies to stress, Go back. This will confirm for you. Go back and look at pictures of our last 10 presidents in the United States. Go back and look at the pictures of the last 10 presidents of what their hair looked like on the day of office and what their hair looked like just 4 years later. Go back and look at it. You will see in almost every single incident, to a man, almost every single one of them, the last 10 presidents, you see significant graying that happens in their hair in just 4 years. You say, well, as people get older, they're going to gray. Yeah, but not at that rate. Why are they so much grayer just 4 years later? It's stress. Because for those 4 years being the president, you're carrying the weight of 300 and some odd million people, population, the decisions of a country. You know, you have crazy sleep cycles and all that pressure and stress. And so go back and look at pictures of those presidents and you'll see just how much skin and hair is impacted by the stress hormones that are released in our body when we put our bodies under prolonged stress that way. Number 5, gastrointestinal problems. Good luck spelling that. Gastrointestinal problems. It actually spells just like it sounds. Gastrointestinal problems. What is that? Stomach issues, ulcers, acid reflux, stomach pain, digestive issues. All of those are greatly impacted by prolonged stress. Back in 2005, we were making the move from New Orleans. I was serving on faculty at New Orleans Seminary. We were making the move from New Orleans to Mississippi, where I was going to serve on staff at a church. And in the midst of that, I was kind of doing 2 jobs at once. I was working at the church 3 hours away. I was living at the school during the week and doing my faculty and director responsibilities at the school, then was traveling back to our home that we were moving into on the weekends. And one day I'm sitting in my office at the seminary, and I thought that I was going to have a heart attack. And so I immediately grabbed my assistant and said, I'm going to the hospital. I think I'm about to have a heart attack. She's, oh my gosh, let me drive you. And so we hop in the car and she takes me to the hospital and I go in and I'm feeling this immense chest pain. And I go in and I'm like, I think I'm having a heart attack. And so they start hooking me up, on all these wires and everything. And, come to find out my heart's fine. They're like, we need to do a stress test. And so they do the stress test. Everything comes back normal. I'm like, well, what's going on? Unbelievable case of acid reflux, all brought on by stress. I'd never had acid reflux a day in my life. Had no idea what it felt like, but it felt like I was about to have a heart attack. And so lo and behold, the doctor says, Tate, you're under too much stress. He said, you got 2 problems. 1, you got acid reflux, and 2, I think you got an ulcer. And so we're going to have to treat both of those. By the way, Tate, both of those directly related to the stress that you put your body under over the course of the last 3 months. So gastrointestinal problems. Number 6, chronic fatigue. Chronic fatigue. We've seen a lot of this. This is a byproduct of both the COVID itself day. She was like, Tate, I just miss our family so much. I want to go see them. And I said, okay, I'll stay home with the boys. You go ahead and go. So she drove back to Mississippi to see our families. And 4 days after she was there, she got COVID. And she got it from her 70-year-old mother. And she decided, Tate, I think the best thing to do is just for me to stay here at the house with Mom. We've all got it. We can just be in the house together. I don't want to try to figure out how to drive home because I feel so bad. So I'll just stay here for the 2 weeks, make sure that it's out of my system before I come back. And that way I don't have to get any of you sick. And I said, okay, that sounds great. 2 weeks later, she's still so sick, she can't drive herself home. So I had to buy a one-way plane ticket, fly to Mississippi, pick her up, bring her back here, local. She stayed in the bed or on the couch until the 3rd week of March. So we don't know why. They call that post-COVID syndrome, or COVID long haulers is what they call it. About 25% of people who get COVID develop it. No pre-existing conditions, no explanation why. Just the symptoms won't go away. They just keep hanging around, hanging around, hanging around. She couldn't go wash a dish without having to go lay down in the bed for 3 hours. Just awful. So we've got that whole dynamic of individuals getting sick, going in the hospital, being sick, being fatigued. Even people who have mild cases of COVID have said that they felt just kind of washed out and tired for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or longer. But then on top of that, you've got all of us who are caring for people who are sick. And we're caring for the stresses of worrying about being sick. And so the fatigue just continues to increase, and it develops into chronic fatigue. Number 7, feelings of helplessness. Feelings of helplessness. When we put our bodies under prolonged stress, we end up just developing this very pessimistic attitude about life in general. Oh, how many times have I said, I hate COVID, and how much longer do we have to put up with this? And we've all said that at some point, right? I just hate this. How much longer are we going to have to do this? And so when we put stress, that kind of stress on our body, eventually we just want to give up. Number 8, this is a big one, distorted thinking. When you put that amount of stress hormone and release that amount of stress hormone in your body and in your brain, it distorts your thinking. It distorts your thinking. When a stress hormone is released into your body, it's designed to be able to kick your body into a defense mechanism, into a survival mentality, into a fight or flight mode. That's what happens when stress hormone is released in our system. Unfortunately, when it just keeps getting released over and over and over again, if I were to, by the way, here's the example. So if I were to release a tiger into the middle of the room, okay, just release a wild tiger right in the middle of the room. Stress hormone floods all of our systems. Adrenaline gets flooded into our system, and all your mind can think is one of two things. Either I'm going to kill the tiger or I'm getting out of this room, one of those two. Yeah. I mean, you are going to get out of here. Or you're going to fight the tiger, one of the two. Okay? Now, if I tried to hand you an algebra problem with the tiger released in the middle of the room and say, here, solve this, of course you wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't be able to solve the algebra problem if the tiger wasn't in the room. I'm horrible at math. But even if I was good at math, with that amount of stress hormone and that amount of adrenaline in your system, you can't concentrate. You can't use advanced cognitive functioning. So when we subject our bodies over and over and over again to that level of stress in our bodies, it has an eventual impact on the neural pathways in our brain. And so some of you have said, some of you may have discovered this. You may have said, I don't know what it is, but recently I've had a hard time concentrating. There's a good chance the reason you've had a hard time concentrating is because your brain has been flooded with adrenaline and with stress hormone for too long. And eventually your brain just kind of says, I need a break. I need you to give me a break from everything. No more algebra, no more solving problems, no more executive functioning. I just need to shut down for a little bit. So you get distorted thinking or fuzzy thinking. Number 9, physical illness or prolonged recovery. Physical illness or prolonged recovery. You put your body under a certain amount of stress for a certain amount of time, and eventually it's just easier for you to get sick with anything, right? You put yourself under a certain amount of stress, you are that much more susceptible to catching a cold, catching the flu, having a headache, getting a stomach bug, Your immune system drops when you have a prolonged exposure to stress. Your overall immune system goes down, and it becomes that much more likely that you will get sick with anything. Even taking COVID off the table, there's a higher likelihood that you will just get sick because your body just doesn't have the energy to fight off those things that are out there in the world that are trying to get in you and infect you. And number 10, you have trouble sleeping. You have trouble sleeping. It's a big problem with prolonged stress. Our bodies begin to shut down. Our mind wants to shut down, but we won't let our mind shut down because we keep worrying about all the things that are causing us stress. And here's the kicker. While you may sleep, you won't rest. And those are two different things. You ever had that experience where you sleep for 8 hours and you wake up the next morning and you say, why am I tired? Like, I just woke up. I shouldn't be tired. I literally just woke up. You slept, but you didn't rest. 2002, I was at New Orleans Seminary, was serving on faculty, and I was finishing up my PhD dissertation. And my friend Jim Hedrick, who I mentioned earlier, he came in my office. We were right next door to each other. He came in my office. He closed the door. He said, Tate, I need to talk to you about something. I said, okay. He said, how you resting? I said, I got, probably 6 hours of sleep last night. He said, that's not what I asked. He said, how are you resting? Are you getting any rest? I said, well, like I just said, I probably got a good 6 hours of sleep last night. He said, let me ask you a question. What's the last thing you thought about last night before you went to bed? I said, my dissertation. He said, what's the first thing you thought about whenever you woke up this morning? My dissertation. Did you get up at all during the night? No. Do you ever get up in the middle of the night? Yeah. What do you think about whenever you get up in the middle of the night? My dissertation. He said, you're not resting. Your body's shutting down and you're going to sleep, but your mind is continuing to run all night long and you're not actually resting. You can sleep and not rest. And so when we prolong our bodies, we're going to talk about rest in just a second, but when you prolong your body to that level of exposure to stress, it impedes your ability to sleep and more specifically to rest when you do sleep. And that's an important distinction. So what are we going to do? How do we take some steps to refresh our physical health? One, connect the body and the spirit. Connect the body and the spirit. I have to be honest with you. This is one of those things I have to remind myself of frequently. What I do with my body is a spiritual issue. Okay? We joke about it a lot. We joke about gaining weight and not exercising, and we joke about, the COVID-20 and, pandemic 20 and all that. But the reality is what I do with my body and how I treat my body is a spiritual issue. What did Paul say in 1 Corinthians 6? Do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit within you? You are not your own. You were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. He didn't say mind. He didn't say behavior. He didn't say attitude. He said glorify God in your body. And what we do with our bodies matter. How we take care of our bodies is a spiritual issue. And so when I don't want to eat right, or I don't want to exercise, or I don't want to drink right, or I don't want to get enough sleep, or I don't want to do the things that I know are necessary for caring for my body, if I need that extra motivation to do what I know to be right, the motivation is, this is a spiritual issue. It is every bit as much a sin for me to not care for the temple that God gave me as if I go commit adultery. A sin is a sin is a sin. So while we may joke about not caring for our physical selves, it's really not a joking matter when the Apostle Paul says, listen, your body doesn't belong to you. That body that you're in, it indwells the Holy Spirit. It was given to you, and you ought to glorify God with the one body that he gave you. Connect the spirit, your spiritual life, and your body. Connect those two things. It will make the decisions that you make about your body easier, because you will not see them as issues of will for you. You will see them as issues of obedience toward Christ. Second, rest well. Rest well. Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Rest well. A couple of tips for you here. When you go to bed at night, when you get ready to go to sleep, develop a nighttime routine that allows your brain to shut down before you go to sleep. Here's what a lot of people do, and it's a huge mistake. Right before they go to bed, they're watching TV, they're playing a game on their phone, they're texting somebody, they're on social media, they're doing work on their computer, whatever. They cut that off. They get tired. They cut that off, put it aside, turn the light off, roll over, go to bed. The problem is that your brain has not had a chance to stop thinking about whatever you were just doing. Even if you were just simply playing a game of Candy Crush, you will go to sleep with your brain thinking about Candy Crush and all the moves that you make, or the crossword puzzle that you were doing, or the document that you were writing, or the social media post that you were typing. Your brain is continuing to be engaged. So develop a nighttime routine that allows you to not be on any technology or anything that is stimulating your brain in a way that's going to keep your brain active when you lay down to go to sleep. So in our house, like with our boys, one of the things that we say is 30 minutes before they get in the bed, technology needs to be on the chargers. They don't need to be in the bed with them. So make sure that your phones are on the chargers 30 minutes before you get in the bed, because for 30 minutes, I want to give them an opportunity to shut their brain down. Allow yourself during that 30 minutes to do something that will not take much mental energy at all. Brush your teeth, comb your hair, clean your face, go for a walk. Do something that will allow your brain to disengage. Okay? Look for opportunities when you're tired to close your eyes for 15 minutes at a time. Learn to take a nap for just a few minutes. I'm a little bit of an anomaly in that I have insomnia. So I don't sleep a ton. But one of the necessities that I have in my life is I have to take a nap in the middle of the day. If I don't, I'm just exhausted by the time the end of the day gets there. So I will lay down on my couch in my office just for 15 or 20 minutes and close my eyes. I'll turn on some music, and I'll just kind of drift for about 15 or 20 minutes. It's a good opportunity for me to rest. You can rest even when you sleep, just like you can sleep and not rest. So you can rest and disengage your brain and allow your body an opportunity to recover, even if you don't even have enough time to sleep. So learn to rest well. Number 3, exercise regularly. Exercise regularly. Whatever that means for you, okay? I'm not saying you got to walk 5 miles a day. I'm not saying you got to go do CrossFit. I'm not saying you got to go run a marathon, but do something to discipline your body. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, 27, the Apostle Paul says this, I discipline my body lest I become disqualified from the ministry. I find the first time I ever read that verse, I found it so perplexing to me that the Apostle Paul is likening the disciplining of his body to his qualifications for doing ministry. But you know what the Apostle Paul is saying? He's saying, as my physical discipline goes, so goes my spiritual discipline. And so when I'm not doing well physically and I'm not disciplining my body physically and I'm not exercising, when I'm not doing that, then there's a high likelihood that I'm probably not disciplined in other areas of my life as well. What I have found is the more discipline I have in my physical life, the more discipline I have in all areas of my life. Because I am basically not living for my body. And that's the great temptation for all of us. We are all mortal beings living in these bodies, and our bodies, our flesh, craves pleasure. Our body says, we love what we love, and that's what we want. Little confession for you. My table already knows this. And George and Brandon heard me talk about this in a Zoom meeting recently. I have had, and I'm not saying this braggadociously, it's embarrassing whenever I tell you this, and you will gasp. Don't gasp. You'll make me feel even worse. So don't gasp. Just trust me that this is not an exaggeration. People who know me know this is the truth. I've had a 30-year addiction to Mountain Dew. For 30 years, I've drank it. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, I like Mountain Dew. Yeah, no, I didn't say I liked Mountain Dew. I said I had a 30-year addiction to Mountain Dew. So for me, prior to giving Mountain Dew up about 3 weeks ago, I would drink on average 6 to 8 Mountain Dews every day. Every day. And I have drank 10 or 12 in a single day. In a single day. What's that? Yeah, you can gasp now. Now you have to know that for me, you think, oh my gosh, how could you possibly do that? Well, when you only sleep 3 or 4 hours a night, and by the way, I know what you're saying. Well, of course you don't sleep. You're drinking 6 to 8 Mountain Dews a day. Of course you wouldn't sleep. It doesn't matter if I drink it or if I don't drink it, I don't sleep. My sleep hasn't changed any since I haven't drank a Mountain Dew in 3 weeks. Right. That's exactly, yeah. I'm having to burn off the 30 years, right? It's never mattered. It's never mattered. So many times I'm drinking that many because I'm already up in the middle of the night. So, but 3 weeks ago I gave it up. But I will tell you, my body wants it. It craves it. If you put a Mountain Dew in front of me right now, I would be unbelievably tempted to drink it, and almost like an alcoholic, I wouldn't want to drink one of them. I'd want to drink 3 of them. Like I've drank them for so long, it's what I do. My body wants that, but just because my body wants that doesn't mean it's going to get that. Because it's not good for me. It's not good for me, right? Doctors have said that, dentists have said that, wife has said that, parents have said that, everybody ever, it's so funny. It's so funny. 30 years of being addicted to this, every person that's ever said this to me thinks that they're the first person. Do you know how much sugar is in that? No. Please tell me. You're the first person to ever tell me. Tate, did you know that has more caffeine in it? Really? I had no idea. I've only been drinking it for 30 years, but I gave it up. I gave it up because I finally just, thank you. Thank you. Pray for me. Pray for me. I'm holding strong at almost 3 weeks. Discipline your body. Okay? Discipline your body. It's good. It is good for you to tell your body that your body exists for the Lord and your body doesn't exist for you. Okay? Your body wants pleasure. We all have two natures. We have a sin nature, and we have a spiritual nature. We have an earthly nature, and we have an eternal nature. And so it's good anytime we set our bodies in a place where we say, listen, I'm not going to serve the flesh. I'm going to serve the spirit. And so if this is good for me, I'm going to take necessary steps to take care of the body that God gave me. So exercise regularly. And listen, this is what I learned. Start small. Most people do these wild, drastic, it's like, I got to get serious about exercising. I think I'll go join CrossFit. Probably not a good place for you to start. Here's a start. Next time you go to the grocery store, park further out in the parking lot and walk further than what you normally do. Let's start there. Okay? That's a good place to start. Just do more than what you did yesterday. Okay? Do that which is not the most comfortable so that your body knows you're disciplining it and you're making decisions that ultimately are going to be good for it. Okay? Exercise regularly. Number 4, eat healthy. Eat healthy. 1 Corinthians 10:31, whatever you eat or drink, do all for the glory of God. Eat healthy. I'm not a nutritionist. But I know what's healthy and what's not. And I may not always eat the most balanced, but I can tell you that if I'm in the convenience store, if I'm at the gas station gassing up and I buy Twinkies, that is not good for me. Right? I love them, but it is not good for me. All right? I love that Mountain Dew, but it is not good for me. So eat healthy. Portion size. Was talking to my doctor the last time I was there, and she's Dr. Ivory, love her. She's a great doctor. And she just said, Tate, just portion control, right? If you'll just do portion control, you can sustain that a lot more than these fad diets where you're trying to lose weight. And she said, you need to lose weight post-COVID, but don't go on a diet. If you will just eat healthy, the weight will come off. And I met with her before I gave up Mountain Dew, and she said, for Pete's sake, please give the Mountain Dew up. And I said, I'll cut back. And I didn't. Eat healthy, okay? This morning, one of the things I started doing whenever I gave up Mountain Dew, I was like, I really need to start looking at what I put into my body. So I downloaded an app on my phone that could track what I eat and what I don't eat. Kind of put a target goal of, what is a normal person my size? How many calories do they need to eat? And what do those calories need to look like? It's not even a diet. It's just this is what a normal person, not if they're not even trying to lose weight. This is what somebody my age, my build, my weight, this is how many calories I should eat every single day. And so I got up this morning and was milling around the house before I had to go do an event. And I said, man, I am craving some Krispy Kreme donuts. I would love a Krispy Kreme donut. And so I said, well, I'll go ahead because here was my plan. I'm going to go to Krispy Kreme. I'm going to buy some donuts and head to my thing that I had to do at the seminary. And I said, I may not have time between going to Krispy Kreme and getting the donuts. I may not have time to put all that information into my app. So I'll go ahead and do that now before I leave. So I put all the information into my app, and as soon as I put all the information in my app and hit the save button, and it showed me how many calories I had left for the day, I was like, I'm not going to Krispy Kreme now. It's almost 50% of my calories for the day just going to Krispy Kreme, like 50% of my calories. And by the way, I've already had more than the sugar allowed for the day just having that one meal. Eat healthy. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Particularly, this is what my doctor told me this last visit. She said, Tate, you're at the age now where it's going to get harder and harder and harder for you to get rid of what you're doing to your body now. She said, your whole life, you've probably been able to gain and lose, and you need to lose 10 pounds, 20 pounds. You could probably do it just like that. You're at the age now where that's just going to get harder and harder. And the consequences of you not eating healthy are going to get worse and worse. And she's right. So eat healthy. Number 5, see a physician regularly. See a physician regularly. Data is really, really helpful. And oftentimes we don't like to go to the doctor because we're afraid of what the doctor is going to say to us. And I said at my last physical, I told Wendy, I said, I don't want to go to the doctor. And she said, why? I said, because Dr. Ivory's going to tell me to stop drinking Mountain Dew. She said, well, why is that any different from the last 3 times you've been and she told you to stop drinking Mountain Dew? You haven't listened to her yet. And I said, well, I just don't want to go because I know what she's going to tell me. She's going to tell me I need to lose weight. I need to stop drinking Mountain Dew. She's going to tell me I need to exercise. She's going to tell me all these things. And I already know that. I don't want to have to hear it again. And she said, you need to hear it again. You need to hear it again. See a physician regularly. See someone who can give you a checkup, give you a physical, and tell you the things that you may not want to hear, but you need to hear. See a physician regularly. Number 6, make small changes consistently. Make small changes consistently. There's this great verse in James 1. It's just after the text that Brandon had us read today. It's James 1:23. And James says this, for if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he's like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away and at once he forgets what he was like. It's just a great verse. Basically says, listen, you look at yourself, you know what yourself looks like, you're going to make all these commitments, you're going to make all these changes, you walk away, and then you just forget. You're double-minded. Like you say you're going to do something, but then you don't end up doing it. Make small changes and make those small changes consistently. In marriage counseling, we have this phrase that we use with married couples. Small changes often. That's what we do. Small changes often, reinforced again and again and again and again. And when you're trying to take care of your body, make small changes consistently. No fad diets, no crazy workout regimens that you're going to give up 2 weeks from now. I jokingly told Wendy, this has probably been 6 months ago or so, we were talking. I said, I tell you what, I think I have gained and lost the same 40 pounds 14 times over the 28 years that we've been married, right? And every time I lose, I gain back a little bit more than what I lost the time before, but it's the same number of pounds every single time. Why? Because for me, if I'm not careful, my mentality is I will pay a lot of sacrifice now so that I don't actually have to live consistently long term. When the reality is, if I would just simply make small changes and do them all the time, that's a lifestyle instead of a fad. And that's what changes your life. Small changes often. I've got men who need to be doing quiet times or leading their family in devotionals, but because they don't know how to lead a 30-minute Bible study, it prevents them from reading a single scripture verse to their kids at night. I'm like, look, you don't have to preach a 3 points in a poem sermon to your kids. Open up the Bible and read a verse to them. Small changes often to your physical body will make a lot of difference long term. Small changes often. Number 7, don't sit for too long. Don't sit for too long. It's bad for your posture. It's bad for your back. It's bad for your mobility. Your muscles begin to atrophy over long periods of time. I spend a lot of time sitting because of the work that I do. And so I have to be very intentional after every session. Get up, walk people to the door, walk up and down the hallway. I have a standing desk. I hit the button, the desk goes up. I stand at my desk and I try to work for a period of time because sitting long term is really, really bad for you. So don't sit too long. Number 8, involve others in your physical activity, both for the enjoyment aspect and the accountability aspect. Involve other people in your physical activity. Hey, you want to go for a walk? Let's go for a jog. Let's take the dog for a walk. Let's go canoeing, or let's go for a hike, or, let's go ride bikes, or, let's go play golf, or let's go shoot some hoops. Or the accountability of that and the enjoyment of that goes up when we don't do them in isolation. If I think to myself, well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to go walk 9 holes. I'm going to go play golf. I'm going to go walk 9 holes. Well, maybe not so much. Maybe I'll ride. Maybe I'll ride. Well, maybe I just won't play at all. Maybe I'll just go to the driving range and I'll just hit some balls. But if Brandon calls and says, hey, you want to go play golf? Let's go walk 9 holes. I'm much more likely to go because he's asked me to go. We're going to have conversations. We're going to go do it together. Much more likely to do that. So involve other people in your physical activity for the accountability of it and the enjoyment of it. It will get you out of that routine of always saying no to the things that you think are going to take energy and life out of you. So involve other people in your physical activity. Number 9, track your physical well-being. Track your physical well-being. I will confess to you, I said to Wendy several times right before I went for my physical a few months ago, I said to her, I know I've gained weight. She said, how much? I said, I'm afraid to look. And so whenever I had to go to Dr. Ivory's office, they made me step on the scale, and I said, I don't want to look at the number, and of course, Dr. Ivory being her, she told me the number. She wouldn't let me get away with not knowing the number. And so she told me the number. What we care about and what we value, we'll track, right? And so it's really easy to live in denial if you never track your well-being. If you don't pay attention to how much water you drink or how much you exercise or how much you eat or, what kind of activities you do on a regular basis, if you never track that, it's really easy for you to live in the delusion of, at least for me it is, it's really easy to live in the delusion of, well, I'm not that unhealthy. I'm not that unhealthy. Oh, wait a minute. I mean, I'll give you an example. Like today, this is no joke. Today, if I wouldn't have tracked that Krispy Kreme thing this morning, I totally would have gone to Krispy Kreme. I would have eaten 3 or 4 donuts. But truth be told, I would have bought a dozen. I would have had 3 or 4 of them this morning. And then at some point during my thing that I was leading at the seminary, I would have probably eaten another one. And then for lunch, I would have gone and I would have done lunch somewhere. And if I were still at home and the Krispy Kremes were still there, I'd probably grab another one of those as a snack somewhere along the way. Never thinking, hey, Tate, you're approaching eating a whole box of Krispy Kreme donuts by yourself in a day. Because it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that way because you're just picking up a donut on the way out. Oh, I'm just going to grab that donut and I'm just going to eat that. And I already told you, whenever I put the Krispy Kreme thing into my phone this morning, I only put 4 donuts in there. That was it. You imagine what it would have been like if at the end of the day I had to go back and put another 8 onto the list? It would have been a lot worse, right? And here's the thing, and this is the kicker for me. At the end of the day, I would not have realized that I had eaten that unhealthy because it didn't feel that way. I wasn't gorging myself. You know how easy it is to eat a Krispy Kreme donut? I mean, literally, you can pick a Krispy Kreme donut up, put it in your mouth. It literally melts in your mouth. You swallow once and it's gone, right? That's the truth. You all know that. You know that. It's so easy. It's so easy. At times we do things to ourselves, and we'll say, I'm not that physically unhealthy. I mean, I do stuff. And then you start realizing the longest walk that you've made is to the end of your driveway to check the mail. Like that's the longest walk. I have found myself, because as I've gained weight, your knees hurt. You don't want to, I have found myself like literally I'm circling the parking lot, looking for the closest parking space. And Wendy says to me, like, Tate, like you're 49 years old. You're not that out of shape. Like we can walk an extra 50 yards to the front door. I'm literally thinking I've got to find the closest parking space to the front door so I don't have to walk as far. Track your physical well-being. Keep up with it. Okay? Hold yourself accountable by asking some hard questions. Okay? This is not, and this was one of the hard things for me. This goes back to that very first point about our bodies and our spirits being connected. For so many of us, the issue of our body is a vanity issue. I don't look good in my clothes, so I need to lose weight. I'm having a hard time getting around my house or doing things that I need to do, so I need to exercise. Those are not the reasons why we do that. Those can be reasons, but the reasons we should do it is because this body that God has given us is the only body that God has given us. And it's a spiritual issue. It's not a vanity issue. It's a spiritual issue. It's not about the way you look. It's about, are you caring for the body that God gave you? And so monitor your well-being, track your well-being. Hold yourself accountable, just like you would hold yourself accountable. Are you reading God's word? Are you praying? Are you going to church? Are you doing Bible study? Are you meeting with an accountability partner? You're holding yourself accountable in those ways. Hold yourself accountable and track your physical well-being. And this number 10 is just a bonus little bitty tip on the end. Stretch every morning. Just stretch every morning. I have really found the benefit of that. I've had a couple of people that have told me that I have a bad back, and I have just found the older that I've got, the less nimble you get and the more problems come from that. So if you'll just stretch every single morning, you'll just feel better overall. That's just a bonus. Okay. All right. I beat up on you long enough, and I've beat up on myself long enough. How long of a break, Brendan? Okay, let's take 5 minutes and we'll come back and do our last session on refreshing spiritual health. See you then.